we'll talk about cybersecurity in interesting ways, but there's a lot of clever people trying to do clever things to earn, not even just to break into the system, but to earn an edge of some kind in the system. How do you stay one step ahead?
There's no silver bullet; it's a bunch of lead bullets, right? So it's like, one thing we do is we just have good test suites, right? So you're testing every piece of code that goes out. That's like just common good best practice, but it's particularly important in financial services. Another thing we do is we hire third-party firms to try to audit this stuff and break in. Another one we do is we have a bug bounty program. So we basically pay white hat hackers to find this stuff before the black hats do. And we've paid out lots of good bug bounties. So, try all the above. And occasionally you don't get it right and you lose some money and then you fix it and you keep going. So, yeah.
Let's talk about cybersecurity a little bit more.
Yeah.
You mentioned using stolen bank accounts.
Yeah.
So that's another one. That's another interesting one. How do you protect against that?
Okay, so fraud prevention, is a big topic. So one of the there's a lot of things people do, but one of the things they do is that use machine learning, right? So you look at
To protect or to attack?
To protect against it. So what you want to do is kind of build up a labeled data set of all the different people who have turned out to be fraudulent and good actors, and hopefully collect as much data as you can. And then you might feed hundreds or thousands of these factors into your machine learning model, and it'll come back with a risk score. So, an example of like the kinds of factors people create or put in there, obviously I don't want to disclose too many of them because it's a cat and mouse game, but just kind of, I don't know, relatively well-known stuff might be, you have device fingerprints, right? So like, what kind of device are you on and what fonts do you have installed? A lot of people who are farming lots of these accounts, they're using emulators and like virtual machines and stuff. They're not like, an average person on that device. And then you'll see sometimes like, one of my favorite metrics we track for this was called like improbable travel velocity. So we're tracking people's IPs, right? And you might see someone who was one day in Austin, Texas, and then like an hour later they were in London or something. It's like, well, that's very improbable. I mean, sometimes people are using VPNs, so you got to be careful with that because like there's legitimate people who use VPNs too. But if it's not possible for them to have gotten on a plane and gotten there that quickly, then that's usually they're like spoofing a device or IP. Sometimes those are interesting factors. But yeah, if you feed enough of these in, you will. Another fun one is like, real users will type their credit card like one number at a time.
Yeah.
Scammers have a list of them and they'll just paste in a whole number. So you can look at like the number of milliseconds between keystrokes. Like there's all kinds of stuff people have come up with.
And even for travel velocity, you could probably incorporate VPNs too, because there's probably a travel velocity for VPN switching too. That's human-like. Like if you're using legitimately VPN for something else, that might be. There's like legitimate uses too. Actually, I feel embarrassed that I don't know this. Probably should, but the "I'm not a robot"
captcha
thing.
Yeah.
So that probably works in the same way.
Yeah.
Like how do you move your mouse, maybe, or how the dynamics of the clicking.
Totally.
But how does that even work that well then? And why can't it be faked? I need to look into this because it's such a trivial captcha. It feels like it should be very crackable, and yet a lot of high security places use that.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
It's another cat and mouse game. So I think but it's using a lot of similar signals like mouse movements, keystrokes, and then obviously all the stuff that comes over the wire with your browser. So like what operating system, what fonts, what headers are being sent over. And there's an old website, I can't remember what it's called. It was called like Panopticlick or Panopticon or something. But it basically was like a proof of concept site that they would just show you all the data that was kind of getting sent over with your request, and like say that there's only one person in the world who has this exact set of data. It's you. And so it's almost like a clever workaround to track somebody, identify a unique person, even if like there wasn't a cookie involved or something.
Yeah, this is a fascinating world where you can't see anybody. You're in the dark, and yet you have a lot of signal, and you have to figure out who's a real person, who's not, who's a robot, who's not.